Hi there, and welcome to the Snapshots podcast, where we share with you snapshots of photography tips, how to connect with other vendors, and so much more. I'm Trityca, your host.
And I'm Grace, your other host. Today we're talking about why you should fill up your calendar even in the slow season and overcoming many different obstacles. So sit back, relax, and let's jump in.
Okay, so what is slow season? Well, what is busy season? Basically, anytime, we've talked about this before, anytime it's warm outside, basically, when the weather is nice consistently, that's when photographers are out.
That's when photographers are out taking photos of lots of different things. So for Trityca and I specifically, we are wedding photographers. And so wedding busy season is pretty much May to mid to early October.
Yeah.
And again, engagement season or like wedding dress season is typically around mid-October to about April.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say busy season for Trityca and I, it's pretty much May to mid-October, and our slow season is mid-October to about the end of April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When it's cold and sad outside.
Yeah.
And no one wants to be outside when it's,
cold out,
freezing, except for when we are, and then it's like, what am I doing with my life? Taking photos. But
yeah, so like when it snowed, it was really pretty, but it was really cold.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So we love taking photos in the snow because it's so cute, but it's also so chilly.
Literally freezing.
I feel worse for most of our clients though, because they choose to come without coats.
Yeah, but you look cute, so
yeah, you look real cute.
It's worth it. You just take the breaks that you need to. It's fine.
You'll think about how cold you are later, but you'll really like how cute you guys look in the photos. Oh, an exclusion to the slow season is holidays.
Oh, yeah, because everyone gets together with their families and then they remember that they don't have any photos recently of them all together. And they're like, shoot, let's book a photographer for Christmas Day.
Maybe not Christmas Day.
Not Christmas Day. That was a joke. But like, the weeks leading up to or after a holiday like Thanksgiving and Christmas are like really popular ones for people to want family photos because, people are at college or they live out of state and they're coming back. And it's like, when are we all going to be together again? Let's get photos, which is great. Love that. But then it's like cold outside. And like, where do you take photos when it's cold outside and brown? Here in Tri-Cities, it's very brown. There's places to do it or like indoor studios. But sorry, I got on a tangent there. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that this is a great time to host mini sessions.
Oh, mini sessions
during holidays. And we will talk about this more later. But for now, let's go back to why should you keep yourself busy during the slow season?
Because if you don't stay busy or like semi-consistently take photos, I think it's really easy to forget why you're even doing it in the first place because and you get kind of rusty too. And then I feel like if you're not consistently taking photos, and I'm speaking from like personal experience, I'm not like generally talking here, then I kind of like doubt my abilities and myself because I feel rusty, even though I know like it's a lot of what we do is like muscle memory because you do it so much that you kind of just like, you just know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah. And plus also if you spend too much time alone, then I think you forget how to interact with other humans a little bit. And that's all of our job is interacting with other humans. What else? Do you have anything to?
Yeah. One thing I saw a lot during this last year's slow season was like the phrase of don't just consume content, create.
Yes.
So if you don't know what to do during busy season, but you find yourself scrolling through like the gram, because I found myself doing that is I planned content. And again, depending on what kind of photographer you are, you can plan your content. I, again, as a wedding photographer, planned wedding themed styled shoots. I also spent this time connecting with other vendors and creating those relationships because it is also typically
slow season for them too.
Yeah, their slow season. Yeah.
That's smart, Grace.
So building relationship with other vendors. Again, important because you may work together in future weddings for couples. And if you take those photos, you have the opportunity to tag them, which they love. Then they trust that you acknowledge their work, that you appreciate their work, and then they can refer you.
Yes.
Referrals are important and referral by word of mouth. Yeah. Referrals by word of mouth is a really big way to get clients.
Especially if that client if that vendor is already booked by that client and then they refer you as a photographer for that wedding. Like if your florist is like, oh, I really like this photographer, then your client's going to be like extra incentive to want to book with you because someone that they trusts you.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Because I think people don't want to have to think super hard when they're planning a wedding. Like I remember planning my wedding and I didn't want to look that hard for a bunch of photographers because like it just seemed like a lot. And I mean, that goes down to like having a good online presence as a photographer so people can trust you and be like no brainer, like they want to book with you. But then client relationships so that they refer you to their clients.
Yeah. So when you have a good vendor relationship too, it like, yes, builds community, but it also is a great way to market yourself. To market yourself and market them. When you tag them in your photos, then you're marketing for them a little bit. And then they refer you and they say great things about you and they're marketing you.
Yeah.
So meeting up and connecting with other vendors is one thing that I really focused on during our slow season. And if they don't want to do like a styled shoot or you don't work together or anything, you can also offer a branding session.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like they have businesses too that they need photos for.
So they might pay you. They could pay you. You could do a trade of services.
Bartering is great. I love bartering.
Yeah. But if they do want to do a styled shoot, then they offer their services. You give them photos or video back. It's a great way to also establish a relationship.
Or just ask them for coffee.
So yeah, if they don't want to do styled shoots, like you could just meet with them and
talk about their business, get to know them.
Talk about more than just the business.
Yeah,
see if you guys will
people
be pals
in real life outside of Instagram.
Yeah.
What a concept. Oh my gosh. Especially when it's slow season. And I mean, some people do have like regular jobs that they're consistently working all year round, but some people don't. And so, I mean, people have time.
Yeah.
You might as well.
So I mentioned earlier that I coordinated some styled shoots during this last slow season. And to do that, I wanted to connect with other vendors to get to know them. And then also I needed some services that I wasn't able to do on my own. One of the first ones was wedding gowns. I wanted to borrow wedding gowns. So I connected with Rosalie Bridal and Tuxedo, which is a wonderful wedding dress shop who also specializes in suits and tuxedos here in Tri-Cities, Washington. Connected with the owner, was able to establish a good relationship with her and borrow some dresses. And for her, what I did is I found a need and she wanted to show off some of her elope wear gowns.
Oh, yeah.
So I found that need. I said, hey, I can take some photos for you so that you can use them for your social media and really promote the fact that you do have elope wear style gowns for brides to try on. And then I was like, okay, so flowers are probably something that I would need to make the photos look more interesting. So I connected with 2 different florists because I did 2 different styled shoots. And they were willing to offer their services, again, for photos, and the same with makeup and hair. I connected with all of those vendors, got them all together, and they were willing to offer their services for free in exchange for photos.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people are more willing to do it for free, and sometimes they expect payment, which is fair.
Yeah. And that's something that you establish when you're starting to figure out the logistics of the styled shoot. Is you establish expectations. I set the expectation of I will not be paying you, but I will be giving you photos, or you will receive payment in the form of photos of high quality images. And I set that expectation at the very beginning so that they knew that's what I was going to do.
And too, if people like aren't busy because it's not wedding season, they could just be bored enough to want to be like, yes, please let me do something.
Yeah.
That was me. I was like, yes, please, can I come with you? Because like I'm literally not doing anything. If it costs them too much to then give you free product though, that, you know, that if it doesn't make sense financially for them, of course, like they shouldn't feel pressured to have to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for your style shoots, they were great and so adorable.
Yeah.
And the vendors were perfect. They were all so nice.
Yeah. They were all talented, really lovely.
And amazing.
I think one example, going back for a second, about like how they might not want to spend money to offer their services, florists.
Flowers are so dang expensive.
A lot of money, especially on like styled shoots because you can't just order a couple flowers.
No.
I learned recently that you have to order a whole like bunch of like 20 at a time, for instance, and that can be very expensive. So one of the florists offered their services, but they were like, "We have a wedding of this week. Can we just use flowers
like the leftovers?
Yeah. As leftovers.
It was a cute bouquet too.
Yeah, it was adorable and it worked out really well. They weren't losing any money on it, and we still got to use flowers. So
perfect.
Really appreciate that. That vendor for doing that for us. Oh yeah, as things start to get cold and slow down and people come back into town, you can also find different models who might be coming to visit family or they might be back from like school break, and you also get to show off different styles, venues you might not have been able to shoot yet, or you can meet different vendors that you haven't had a chance to connect with yet. Because before I had connected with a couple of vendors, so I chose some vendors I already knew for one styled shoot, and I tried to connect with new vendors for the second styled shoot because I didn't want to use the same vendors, even though the first ones were amazing. I just wanted the opportunity to meet more people.
Yeah.
And again, during the slow season, like Trityca was saying, always being able to improve your skill and practice is really important.
Can only take so many photos of inanimate objects before it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah. What was one big takeaway from the styled shoots that we did together?
My biggest takeaway of the styled shoots that I got to attend that Grace 100% planned. I did nothing but show up and help the day of.
You were still a lot of help.
Was how willing these vendors were to give their services or offer their services, especially Amy, the makeup artist.
Yeah.
Like, she's booked and busy. That girl has like, that woman, she has like 5 different businesses, but she was still willing to take time out of her day and like meet with us and like have the do the model's makeup.
Yeah.
And that was so nice. And it just like, it really humanized, I know she's a human, but like she's popular in our area too.
Yeah.
And it really just, it humanized and made me feel happy things about people that I hadn't really met before.
Yeah.
But I still like followed on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
But just how willing other creative people are to be creative along with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's fun. That's my favorite part about the styled shoot.
One of my favorite parts about the styled shoot were the models.
They were so cute. Beautiful.
Yeah. Cute and beautiful and handsome for the one guy model we did have. But they also were all very busy. Like, most of them had children and were really busy. And one of them was my cousin. Her name is Sydney. She runs the Dollhouse Salon and Spa, and she's a lash technician and does like brows. She's incredibly busy. And she took time out of her busy day too to be our model. I think it was like her one day off of the week.
Wow.
Yeah. And, another model, she had kids. And then our models that were a couple also had a child and were really busy. And I just really appreciate that everyone took time out of their day to model for us.
I know it's funny that earlier I was like, well, people are available during like off season. For us as photographers, we're available, but other people with like
jobs,
normal 9-to-5 jobs and kids, maybe not so much. But yeah, that was awesome. I was really grateful that they were willing to spend that time. And hopefully they had fun and it was worth their while.
Yeah.
Because like if they feel like it needs to be worth it for people to want to participate at that point, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's one thing though, that's a really big takeaway in general is for the most part, if you're trying to plan a styled shoot during a slow season, never hurts to ask for help.
Yeah. The worst someone's going to tell you to is no, because they're too busy or they just can't afford to do that at the moment. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe instead you can buy fake flowers and a florist can help you arrange them.
Yeah.
You never know.
Sure. Or like go take a class on flower arrangements. We have some of those in the area.
Yeah.
Try to do it yourself. That's cool too. I mean, what else are you going to do? Nothing?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you don't need flowers.
True. That's true too. You don't really need flowers either.
If you have a florist that says no.
Cut a bunch of pines off a pine country and then... That didn't make sense. Never mind.
Pines off a pine tree.
I meant like the greenery off an evergreen.
So I mentioned earlier in the episode something about mini sessions. I mentioned we were talking about it later. Well, now's that time, guys. Trityca, can you describe what mini sessions are?
So a mini session, even though I've never actually offered these yet, I'm sure I will in the future, is when a photographer will take X amount of time, break it up into segments of like 15, 20 minutes, and then sell those 15 to 20 minute slots to clients, whoever, for a rate that is less than what they would charge for like an hour-long session. So for a client, they're paying less generally for photos than they would normally do for a full session. And then that photographer is still able to make enough to where it's worth their time, just with more clients at one time.
Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's give an example. Say I am hosting mini sessions indoors during the slow season.
Yeah.
Again, indoors means probably a studio. So I'm renting a studio space for, let's say, 2 hours. I'll break up that 2 hours into 15-minute increments, and then I'll advertise mini sessions for 15 minutes. I'll say that you can get, some photographers say 5 photos. Some people say like 20.
Depends on your pricing structure too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll say 15-minute mini sessions. You get 20 high resolution edited images. And the turnaround time is 2 weeks. So if you're not giving yourself a break in between each session,
which
then you
probably should.
Which you probably should.
Because things could happen. But yeah.
Yeah. But if you aren't, then that'd be 8 mini session spots. And you can offer that for a rate of, some people do $200. Mine are $150 or $145.
I think it wouldn't be like, I mean, for me at least, I wouldn't price it as like, my normal rate for an hour-long session is $350 depending on the type of session. But I wouldn't then like take, what would 15 minutes of that be worth to me? Like, it'd have to be a little bit more, like as a photographer, like a little bit more to make it a little bit more extra worth my time. Yeah. But yeah, it would still be significantly less than like an hour-long session with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's a mini session.
Yeah.
That's how I would advertise that. I would say your session is 15 minutes long. You get 20 high resolution edited images back in a 2-week turnaround time, all for $145 plus tax. And my full session for an hour is $350 plus tax.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Competitors, I'm gonna fight you. No.
Anyways, that is my hour-long session compared to how I would advertise a mini session. So that's a quick rundown of what mini sessions are. During the slow season, it is a great time to advertise mini sessions because schools are normally on break. So during that holiday break, then all these students are not busy with school. Sometimes family come back into town, or other loved ones that normally wouldn't be in town. And so, like Trityca said too, if you haven't had family photos done in a while, this is a perfect time to get them done. If you see a photographer that's offering mini sessions for a discounted rate than what they normally would charge. Yeah. You could even offer these for several weekends if you wanted to, or a couple days.
True.
Yeah. So if one day fills up, you can say, hey, would anyone be interested on if I offered mini sessions this day too? And then a lot of times people can say yes and book that as well.
Yeah. Part of the reason why I've never offered mini sessions is because I haven't felt like I had the clientele base to like be confident enough that I would be able to like not even fully book. Like I wouldn't need to fully book, but like book them enough to where it's not just one person showing up and then like I paid for a studio and then it's one person paying like $150 and then I didn't make any money. And like, sure, I did something that day, but also was it worth it for the client? Yes, of course. But
for yourself, not as much.
Myself, maybe not as much.
Yeah.
That's just something to think about which I think is why a lot of photographers will like ask on their Instagram stories or have email lists that they'll distribute asking or promoting mini sessions.
Yeah. So during this last winter, I hosted mini sessions.
Yeah, you did.
I only opened up 6 spots for it because I was also worried about if I would have anyone book. I'm very lucky and thankful to say that all of the spots got filled, but I did host them outside and I did spend money on making a backdrop for it and they turned out really cute. And
they were super cute.
I'm really thankful for those who booked. I made great relationships there too. But that's what I did. I opened up 6. And then this spring I opened up 13. because the
Nice.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have an email list, like Trityca said. So I announced that I was going to be hosting mini sessions 24 hours before I posted it on Instagram. So people in my email list kind of get a first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And then I posted it on Instagram. And yeah, mini sessions can be a really fun way to fill up your calendar. And if you don't want to fill up your calendar with anything, you can fill it up with rest.
True.
Resting is really important.
I'm really good at that. That's like one of my talents is taking naps.
But like as a wedding photographer, you're busy pretty much every single weekend from May to mid-October.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weekends in a row. You could be really tired. You could be experiencing burnout, which we don't want you to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like feeling it.
Because then it makes you not want to do what you used to like doing.
Yeah.
No one wants to feel
burnout
that
is
way.
incredibly powerful.
Ew. True.
Yeah. Can you explain real quick what burnout is?
It's when you overwork yourself to the point where you don't want to work no more.
Yeah. Like you don't want to take pictures anymore.
Nope.
You don't want to edit anymore. You don't want to connect with anyone anymore. You just want to ignore all of it.
When your job feels more like a job than it does like something you actually enjoy doing. It like sucks all the fun out of and the joy out of photography.
Yeah. So a great way to avoid burnout or to recover from burnout is just accepting it, because that's the first step. And then resting and taking an entire break from it. Because when you also experience burnout, it's really, really easy to get into the feeling of,
I want to quit.
I want to quit. Everyone else is better than me. So you're comparing yourself to everyone. And then like you're not feeling excited or motivated and you dread the idea of picking up your camera.
Yep.
Yeah. So another great way to avoid burnout after resting would be to revisit some of your old work to re-inspire yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. That's what I did. And then I did those style shoots.
Yeah. And then you can also remind yourself like how far you've come.
Yeah.
Too, by doing that.
Yeah.
I love to roast myself with my my old work. Actually, it was never that bad. I think it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I see my old work and I'm like, oh, that was an interesting choice.
I made that choice.
I did that.
I did that. Actually, no, I do scroll back occasionally, like far into my Instagram, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually pretty good. Like, not bad. Not bad, newbie me.
Another way to recover from burnout would be to like attend or participate in workshops or classes.
Yeah. Get inspired again, like you were saying, but like from external sources and not from yourself.
Yeah. So external sources, like a workshop, would be like you pay money to get a ticket to basically a styled shoot or several styled shoots
that like another that convo for tog.
Yeah, like that another creative person is hosting.
Yeah.
So like maybe they're doing a styled shoot, you pay some money for a ticket and you go and you photograph like 4 different styled shoots in one weekend. And that can be a lot of fun because you're not the only person there. There's more people paying tickets for this type of workshop. It's a lot of fun, I would assume. I've never been.
Me neither. Maybe one day. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah. Or participating in like online classes.
Yeah. Try to learn something you haven't. Like for me, it'd be film. Like if I was to take a course on film, I think that would be.
Like film cameras or video?
Oh, duh. I meant film cameras, but also, yes, video. Those are 2 things that I would love to learn.
Yeah.
Like I don't currently feel burnout, but if I did, I think that's what I would do. I'd try to like shift my focus a little bit and learn something new and then like re-love photography again.
Yeah. That's a good mindset. I didn't think of it like that. If you don't feel like doing any of these things, that's okay. Taking a break is still a great way to fill up your calendar. You know, go on a walk, spend time with your family,
learn to knit,
learn a new hobby. Just
take
something
a cooking
that
class
doesn't involve your camera can also be really healing.
Yeah.
If you do not experience burnout, or you have connected with other vendors already, or you've already done a styled shoot and mini sessions, then you can also fill up your calendar with doing a check-in with your business. Yeah. So, or restructuring your business if you feel like that's something you need to do. So reevaluate your pricing if you need to. Like you can entirely rebrand if that's something that you feel like needs to be done.
Yeah.
And with that, you can redo your website. You can take a look at your client process. You can redo your contracts. You can do all of that.
Oh, on another note, talking about contracts, especially if you're a newer photographer or if you just haven't like actually legally launched your business. First of all, get your business license. Second of all, do not take photos of anyone until you have them sign a contract and you countersign that contract. Because if you are not taking photos with a contract signed and those clear boundaries established, it goes both ways. You need to be protected as a photographer so that person isn't going to come back and try to like take you to small claims court and sue you because their expectations weren't met because you didn't clearly set those expectations. And then it protects them because if you did somehow do something wrong, then they're legally protected and they have good reason to then sue you. I don't want anyone to get sued.
But this is valid whether the person you're taking photos of is paying you or not.
Or not. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. If someone is paying you for photos, you need to A, be doing it legally with a real business, and B, paying taxes, and C, having contracts so it's legally binding.
If you're operating in a state that collects sales tax, you need to be paying sales tax.
Yes. Don't try to work your way around it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. And I also advise that you don't postpone this process in your business either. Because even though you could be thinking like, oh, well, I don't have that much clientele, so I don't want to be paying taxes on this. And I don't like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Which is fair.
Yeah, it is fair, but it's also a lot more worth it to just operate legally
from day one if possible.
Yeah.
I think I probably took like 3 months or so before I actually like had a business license and contracts. Or maybe I think I actually did have contracts signed, even though I didn't have a business license for like the first 3 months. So I don't know, those are really legally binding because I didn't actually have a real business, but then once I did, it was like legit and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if you're not charging people that much, just like do yourself a favor and be as legal as possible and protect yourself and protect your clients, because then no one's going to mess around with you, or at least will be very hard to when they're going to take you to court for something that you legally, like, you can be like, no, you signed right here saying like these were the terms that we agreed to, and like, what are you doing, like, for your own benefit and safety?
Yeah.
No one wants to be sued. That's not fun.
Yeah, no. And that's also like in a contract, you can, like, when you're defining those expectations, one major thing that a lot of people can miss is they'll use the term deposit.
Oh, deposit.
Instead of non-refundable retainer. Because in legal terms, deposit is a refundable amount of money. I was going to say sum, but a deposit is a refundable amount of money. A non-refundable retainer is a non-refundable amount of money. So we are not legal experts, but these are things that we have learned and been told and taught from people who are legal experts.
Or things I've learned from photographers who hired legal experts.
Yes.
And then I bought their contracts that they were selling.
Yes.
And I use those. So then I know I'm like for real protected.
Yeah.
You could also, I think there's some lawyers locally that will work with small business owners, and that's their specialty. I'm sure you could do that too.
Yeah. Another thing you can put in your contract for expectations on wedding days is that you are to be fed.
Yeah, that's a big one. I feel like now we're just going to talk about like everything you need to include in your contract to not get screwed over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're working more than 6 hours, like a meal needs to be provided for sure. Oh my gosh, wedding days are exhausting. They're so worth it, but you need to eat, girl, or boy, or person.
Yeah. In my contract, I say that if your event is a wedding, I am due food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a time when the couple was like,
don't eat.
Don't eat. No, normally they're like, have you eaten yet?
Like, please eat.
Please eat. Like, here's some food. I made it myself. No, not really. But like genuinely, like the nicest people. They care so much, and I really appreciate that. And like, yeah, they're very human and loving, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Nice. Those are my favorite people to work with.
Yeah,
which is most people.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a wedding client either be like, "Don't eat."
Yeah, and I think if you use contracts just in general for any type of session, the people that you probably shouldn't be taking photos of because they don't appreciate you as a photographer and they're really just there to get their photos and run, those people probably won't sign contracts.
Yeah.
And then don't do a session with them because that's not the kind of person you want to have to be dealing with on the back end after you've delivered photos.
Yeah.
That's just not fun.
Oh, this is another thing too that I want to talk about. Contracts should be used even with family.
100%.
So I'm going to tell a story. I had a family friend when I was first starting off in photography, and she was like, I just want engagement photos. Like, no big deal. I don't really want that much. Like, I'll pay you. And I was like, excellent. What's your email so I can send you a contract? And she was like, I'm sorry, contract? And I was like, yeah, so it protects both of us. It goes over details like how much you're paying me, what the deliverables are, like how many photos you're gonna get, and like how they're gonna be edited. Expectations after photo delivery were included. So like I mentioned, yeah, if you don't like the way I edited your photos, you chose me for my creative ability and my style. So if you do not like your photos, for instance, for like I wasn't looking at the camera or like stylistic reasons, that's not
a reason to get a refund.
Yeah, those are not acceptable reasons for refunds.
No.
And I gave that very brief overview, and she sent me her email back, and I sent the contract, and she never signed it. So I never accepted a time to do their photos. I was like, as soon as you sign your contract, I can work with you about scheduling a time for your engagement session. And I was just starting out too. So I was 18 and she never signed it. And later I heard from my mom, again, family friend who was getting married. I heard from my mom that my family friend's mom talked to her about it. Like her mom talked to my mom.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, she never wanted to sign a contract because she was like, it was just engagement photos. It wasn't that big of a deal. And my mom is also a business owner. She ran her own business, and she was like, no, contract's totally important.
Huge deal. Because I feel like, again, the people that are most willing to, the people that will either support you 100% or try to take the most advantage of you are the people who are closest to you. Well, at least you'd hope to be close to you, but they kind of show their true colors. Family.
They also don't think it's that big of a deal.
Exactly.
Sometimes. Yeah. Like this family friend, she was like, according to my mom, what her mom said something along the lines of like, it wasn't that big of a deal and I didn't want to make it one. So that's why I didn't sign the contract. And, again, my mom is a business owner. She was like, well, it's also a liability thing.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
She was like, if Grace had her do a prompt or like run or something and she fell, then she couldn't be sued for the price of her dress, or like if she were to sprain her ankle and like hurt herself or something, like that wouldn't be her fault. That's in my contract, is that if you like, I'm not responsible for that. If you fall, it's because you fell.
True.
I don't know if
all those little things
that,
like that need to be in a contract. And then it just protects you and it protects your client, and then people won't sue other people.
Yeah. But that's one thing that I talk about in my contract.
Yeah.
Do you include that in yours?
I'm pretty sure it's in there. Yeah. I've read over my contract so many times, but I'm pretty sure that's there. It's like a what is it called? Yep, here we go. This includes but is not limited to any and all risk arising from the location of the photograph, the pose of the photograph, or any other potential risk. There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm protected.
Yeah. Or if you get sick from being out in the rain with me, that is also not my fault. Oh my gosh.
Especially with COVID, like I remember, because I started photography like right in the middle of COVID, and that was a huge thing that got added to like these contracts that I bought, was like, I'm not liable if you get sick during like your wedding day or your session. And then also if I get sick, I'll do all that I can to like, and I can't perform on a wedding day, then you're I would be protected from that. Like they're not going to like sue me because I wasn't able to be there. And you do as best you can and like try to find a replacement and everything.
Yeah.
But especially with COVID, like that brought to light a lot of like variables that can happen as a small business owner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary deal too.
Contracts are super important.
I'm trying to think what else. I also include in there like a location if we picked one. Again, deliverables. Payment. I do include terms of payment in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge one.
Yeah. I say this much is due when you sign this contract.
Yep. Like the total amount that's due, when it's due, when each part is due, because there's the retainer and then there's each amount following depending on how many.
For weddings, I also offer payment plans. So even though the total could be X amount, their retainer, the non-refundable retainer is 30% of that amount. And then from that point, I split it up into equal payments for several months. So they're not paying
that's awesome.
the same amount, or they're not paying the total amount in the second go.
Like then it's super important to have it written down.
Yeah, like this and scheduled out. Because if they don't want it like that, then I can fix it, and then like they can still sign it as long as the total is still the same. I'm fine.
True that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then I talk about like the forms of payment I accept. Like I do not accept cash or check.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Do you know how easy it is to bounce a check? I don't actually know, but I assume it's easy enough because that's how so many scams happen. And I've seen things online of photographers getting scammed because like they'll fall for these people claiming to be potential clients. They send a check, the check bounces, and then they're liable for that amount because their bank, I can't remember exactly. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Anyway.
And then their check bounces.
But you already delivered the photos and then you're out all that money and time and effort.
Yeah. And if a client...
You need to have a paper trail for everything.
Yeah. And if a client is saying like, oh, well, I don't have that money right now, or I can only give you cash or check, then they are still a real client. Then you can say, okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, I still do not accept those two forms of payment. Like stick to your guns, but be polite.
That's just when you say, that's okay. Then just for the time being, we just won't book. And then let me know, or I'll reach back out in a few weeks or a month and see if you're able to pay then. And if you're not, then
we'll just keep waiting for when the time's right.
We just won't have a session.
Yeah. It's okay to say no and be polite.
Yeah. Never be like mean to people unless they're being like obviously rude. I might throw a little sass back, but not enough to where I'd get canceled. Just a little bit. Yeah. Stick to your guns.
Yeah. Have a contract.
That solves like all of your problems if you just have a contract to start.
But contracts can seem really daunting and serious, and they're not daunting, but they are serious.
So if I was to go back talking about contracts and like things you need to run your business legally and well to protect yourself. If I was to go back, I bought the contracts that I use with my clients. Actually, you know what? At first I started with free contracts, and then I realized like there was clauses that should probably be added based on like things that I kept seeing on like Facebook groups I was in that people were having problems with their clients, and they ironically didn't have these contract clauses, and they were like, I wish I had this in my contract. I'm going to add it now. And I'm like, oh shoot, I should probably do that too. And then I like looked up this couple that I bought a lot of courses from, and they were offering contracts, and I was like, I trust that they probably have everything that I would need to cover my butt if needed. And they did. So I bought the contracts, and they were like a couple $100, maybe like $150. And I don't know if I would spend that much again on that. I'm sure there was a cheaper option, but also maybe not. I don't know. They're worth it. Good contracts are absolutely worth it because they'll protect you from heartache and getting sued later on.
Yeah.
So maybe I would have tried to find like a less expensive contract, but I mean, getting that really good contract was still cheaper than hiring a lawyer. So maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But one other thing, if I could go back, that I wouldn't spend so much money on was courses, because I bought like a posing course, a shooting and editing course, and a business course. And I think if I could go back, I wouldn't take the business course again because it really wasn't as helpful as I was hoping. Because experience and learning from other photographers firsthand is the absolute best way to learn how to run your business. Like once you get all like the basics down of your business license, contracts, a client management software like Honeybook, which I think, we both use Honeybook, getting your Instagram or whatever social media, your website. Like once you have those things started, I would just try to learn as much as you can from like real life other photographers and like maybe videos on YouTube. And then once you feel like there's gaps, then buying like how to build your own website. What is it called? What's it called when you have like backlinks? Oh, like a SEO, like an SEO course.
Yeah. SEO stands for search engine optimization,
Thank
by the
you,
way.
Grace.
It's normally what Google uses to send potential view or to give you more viewers on the internet.
So I'm sure there's courses out there that like outline all of that, but also I feel like the one that I bought at least was just so basic that it was not worth the money because like it wasn't really helpful. I don't know. Anyway, I would spend less money up front on things that weren't like equipment.
Yeah.
And more,
that totally makes sense.
More money on things that would actually help me right away.
I think if I was to start over or something I would change is I wouldn't spend money on courses either.
Yeah.
So
I don't regret my shooting and editing course because I really did learn a lot from that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
so I started photography when I was about 17, like getting into it, and I didn't take any clients until I was 18 and had a contract. But I learned everything from YouTube.
Yeah.
So I didn't know courses were a thing at that time. And so fast forward to 2021, 2022, when I started my business. 2022. Yeah. Fast forward to 2022, when I started my business, I found out about courses and I bought one on mini sessions and actually making a profit from mini sessions. And as knowledgeable as the gal was about mini sessions, I don't think I would have bought that. I don't think I would buy that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
especially I feel like what am I saying? Courses that are geared towards like brand new photographers, I don't think those are worth the money. That might be controversial, but I really don't think they are because you're going to learn the very minimal basics that you can and then figure it out as you go.
I learned entirely from YouTube.
Yeah. I
learned how to use Photoshop from YouTube. I learned how to use Lightroom from YouTube. I learned how to use my whole camera on YouTube. I learned some Lightroom tips from you and from other photographers. But like when it comes to learning how to shoot and everything, I didn't feel like I would learn any more from courses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you got to do trial and error at that point and just don't charge people for photos until you're confident.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I think that's the best way to do it. And I realized I've watched my courses for like 3 to 6 months after I bought them. And then I haven't signed in since. And it's probably been over a year and a half since I last actually watched any of those videos that I paid like $400 a course for.
Yeah.
And I learned so much more from just actively taking photos and meeting other photographers and running my business than I ever did with those online courses, watching people.
Yeah. One thing I guess two things. Two things I am really happy I spent money on would be photo presets and video presets.
I can see video presets for sure because color grading seems like a...
Yeah. So I film all my video in something called Sony Log 3. So logarithmic video. So it basically comes out gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that allows for a lot more color to be brought back into the picture after you're editing. And editing from log was kind of a lot for me. It takes up a lot of time and I didn't know how to make my own preset. And so I was watching a YouTube video on how to edit S-Log3 and he was like, and if you want, you can check out my presets. So I did some more research on his presets and I was like, this sounds amazing. And it's saved a bunch of time of me figuring it out. And of course I figured it out now, but like those presets are beautiful. So I love them. And then photo presets, I really love too. Like I bought presets and then I tweaked them to be my liking a little bit more consistently. And so like, yes, they're originally someone else's presets, but I tweaked them all to be closer to my needs as a photographer. And it saves me so much time.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you said that because I almost have the exact opposite opinion of I have never bought a single preset, as cool as they seem. And I don't think that they're bad to buy. Okay, I need to preface everything I'm about to say because I don't think there's like a wrong way to learn photography. I think it's not helpful if you think that one course or one like set of presets or anything is going to somehow make you a good photographer. Because I think the best way to become a good photographer is to just do it and to just learn. And for me, like I learned the basics of editing in Lightroom and then I kind of just figured it out from there, like how I like to edit. And I never had presets. And I don't think presets are evil, but I have seen people who are like, oh my gosh, what preset is that? Where can I buy that preset? I want my photos to look like that. But your photos aren't going to look like someone else's photos, even if they're selling you their preset, unless you shoot exactly like that person and have like similar gear and shooting style. And then the preset comes after, like their editing comes after.
Yeah.
But presets could be very helpful for learning like how you want to edit, for sure. I'm just saying, a new photographer, don't depend heavily on presets right away. Like you need to learn the basics first.
Oh yeah, basics are incredibly important.
Yeah.
But yeah, presets are also not like a one-click fix.
No, they're not like a Band-Aid that's going to magically make your photography perfect.
Yeah. Again, because like Trityca was saying, your settings could be different. Your situation, like lighting wise and physically, could be different. Mm-hmm. Like you add a preset and then you tweak it afterwards. There's always more editing after the preset is applied to a photo or a video.
Yeah.
It's not like you get to just slap it on there and boom, it's perfect.
Yeah.
As much as I would also love that. That's
Wouldn't that be great?
Case.
Like, please solve all my problems. Like, I want a preset for my real life. Like, please let me just click a button and have everything just be perfect.
Yeah.
No, it's just not possible.
That's something I learned like pretty early on when I discovered presets, is that people didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes some time to figure that out. But yeah, that's not what presets do. They're there to help speed up your editing process and help make your photos look more consistent.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yes.
They're not there to be a one-click fix.
And you can make your own presets too once you have your editing style down.
Is that something you've done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. For the most part, yes.
Yeah.
I still find myself moving dials all the time, but
yeah. One thing I do find about the photo presets I bought is, and the video preset, I only use preset 1. Like they could have 8 different presets in their pack that they are selling, or a photographer could have 8 different presets in a pack that they're selling. And on the one that I purchased, I only used preset 1 and I tweaked preset 1 and that's it.
Yeah, there you go. The biggest lesson I would have to say about all of this is, if you're new or if you're not even new, your hard work and learning things through trial and error is so much more valuable and will get you so much further than a course or a preset or I don't know what else there really is, or a new lens. That's not going to solve all your problems. Yeah. And just be cautious to not spend so much money on things that aren't.
Yeah. Learn the basics of how to use your camera, how to use all your gear, and how to shoot well. Learn the basics of composition.
Yeah. And I think it's funny that I'm saying don't spend your money on courses when a lot of my foundational principles that I learned was from a course. But some courses are definitely worth it. Just make sure that you know why you're spending the money on what you're spending. Yeah. That's what I have to say. Courses are great and they're perfect and educational, but also sometimes all you really need to know are the basics, and the basics are free on YouTube.
Yep.
Or on a reel that someone's posting.
Yeah. Again, I learned everything that I know on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Everything that I bought from that Profitable Minis course, I had previously learned on YouTube. And I was like, oh, this course is going to have something different because they're asking me to pay for it. It did not.
And that's no shame to like photographers that offer courses. It's just knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have bought so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think knowing what I know now, I also would have shot an S-Log3 sooner for video.
I would say me too, but I've never shot video. But that's cool. I've noticed a difference in your work.
Yeah.
From back whenever you shot with whatever and then now with S-Log. Yeah. Continuing the topic of courses, I did buy a course, I think it was last year. It was it doesn't matter. It was before wedding season last year. I bought a course on Flash because like I knew that I needed to like know what the heck I was doing with Flash enough to like take decent photos in dark situations. And so I bought it, and the course is actually great. It was super basic information, which is perfect because it's what I needed to learn, but I also don't know if it was worth that money when I realize now I see Instagram reels all the time with like very similar information. And so I don't know, but Flash is such an important skill to learn. Oh, and we can talk more about that.
Yeah. I think if I was to do something different, I would have learned Flash
right away.
Sooner.
Yeah.
Right
immediately
away.
Because once you learn it, it's like really not that scary. And I'm not like perfect at it, but it's just adding light to your photo. Yeah. With a light source on your camera body.
Yeah. It's not off your camera. You could do off your camera.
Yes. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. So if you have a flash on your camera, you can also have another one off your camera and you can sync them to go off at the same time. Or you can have both of them off your camera and you can have a little signal coming from your camera to make sure that your flashes go off when you click the shutter. That's also something you can do. And I didn't know any of that until recently.
Yeah, so maybe the course was worth it to buy. Yeah, probably. It was probably worth the money.
Yeah, because when I was first searching YouTube on how to use Flash, there was like nothing.
That's so true. Now that you mention it, now I see things that are like, I know that now on Instagram, but I don't think that was information that was available back then. So like, I think I will mention the course I bought. It's Rob Green's Flash course. It was like $300 or something. Yeah. Or $400. And it was worth it. Yeah, I think that was probably a course I would buy again. I should probably take it again too, just for fun.
Yeah, I learned Flash from the photographer that I'm shooting with.
Yeah, that's another great way to learn Flash. Especially if you're going to shoot with someone too, then you can know how they use Flash and then your photos will be similar.
It can sometimes be tricky because she shoots with Canon and I shoot with Sony. And Sony typically has better low light capabilities than a Canon does. At least the DSLR Canon doesn't have the same low light capabilities that Sony has. And so my settings are always different, but I at least got a feel for what I can do now. So typically, and Flash modifiers. Yeah. I am so glad that Trityca and I were friends when I started learning Flash because she seriously recommended getting a Flash modifier.
Magmod all the way.
Magmod makes an amazing Flash
and
modifier.
I learned from the photographer that I second shot for a lot. So it's just a chain of information.
Yeah. And it's seriously like made my Flash game so strong. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think
one thing I don't do though is I don't bump my ISO up that high. Like you guys, like you were taught, or I think like she taught you.
I don't know how high do you bump it up? Because I try to stick around 800 with Flash, and it depends on how dark it is. And one great thing about our Flash that we use a V1, right?
Yeah, so Godox, we both use the Godox V1 for Sony,
which I really want to get a pro photo, but those things are $1,200, and I can't justify that price yet. But the great thing about ours is that it has like a flashlight option to where it'll illuminate like not super bright, but enough to where then your camera is able to focus on whatever it is you need it to focus on because there's some source of light.
Like if it's too dark.
And then you can take a photo from there. So that way you're not missing your focus, and also your ISO doesn't have to be as high because you have a light source to focus in on.
Yeah. I think so. I recently shot a wedding where we needed flash photos for their exit, and I actually remember at least part of my flash settings. I had it on the sync mode, and if you're using the Godox and you put it on sync, then that means that your shutter speed can be higher than 1/250, really handy stuff. And then I had my flash power at 1/16.
Yeah, cool.
And then I had, I think my shutter was like 1/320 though, and my ISO was maybe 500 or 640.
Mm-hmm. I think it also depends on like the type of image you want in the end too, because if you want the light to mostly be on like your subject, then if your ISO is lower, then that's fine because their background that's not well lit isn't going to be lit. But if you want like a brighter background, then you need to expose at first for the oh gosh, what's the word? Just like the light in the back of your image. There's a word for that and I can't remember what it is, but you expose your camera pre-flash for that, and then your flash is just to light up your subject.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest thing I learned from the course that I took. So that alone is worth like $400. So there you go. You're welcome.
I want to go back real quick and talk about flash modifiers. On flash modifiers include flash diffusers that are usually made up of like a plastic or silicone. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I just brought out my flash and an example of one of the modifiers that MagMod makes. What Trityca is holding now is called the MagSphere, and I will link these in our show notes if you are listening right now, so that way you can check them out if you want to. So right now I am holding the Godox V1 for Sony. It's the flash that we were just talking about. And around the light portion of it is the MagMod magnetic adapter that you need to have the modifiers attached to the MagMod. And so you just click it. It magnetically attaches to the top of the flash. And it's a pretty strong,
You're good.
And it's a pretty strong magnet. Like it's not going anywhere. And yeah, I like the MagSphere over the Mag Bounce. Mm-hmm. We both have both. And MagMod makes a kit that has the magnetic adapter and both of the diffusers on it.
If we could go back in time and do anything a little bit differently, then we would both learn flash right away.
Yeah.
Right away, and not be so afraid of the dark.
Yeah. I haven't learned how to use...
photographers are afraid of the dark.
Oh, yeah. I haven't learned how to use gels yet. So the MagMod kit that comes with the magnetic adapter and both of the diffusers come with like these hard plastic colored
gels.
They're called gels in the photography world. And you can put them on top of the magnetic adapter and then put the diffuser on top of it, and it's supposed to change the color of your flash. Yeah. I haven't played around with these too much yet, but I will soon.
Which like these are cool if you're doing more of like a creative shoot, or if you're trying to match the color of your flash to the color of whatever light is available. Like if you're in like a barn reception, then you might want to have like a warm colored flash to match.
Or you could also make it cooler so that you don't need to make your camera settings cooler.
Yeah. So you should play around with it. I don't really use them, but
I don't really use them either, but they're fun and I'm excited to learn them, I guess. Okay. Yeah. I like the MagSphere over the Mag Bounce. The Mag Bounce is really cool, but I like the sphere because it diffuses more light, I think, evenly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit softer. It's not as harsh as the Mag Bounce to me.
I think
or is it
in a perfect situation, I think I would use my Mag Bounce to shoot like more from further away, and my MagSphere if I'm closer to a subject.
See, I like the MagSphere because even when I point it forward, then it gives the illusion of still being just as good as the Mag Bounce.
Yeah, because this is great because then you just point it.
Where am I trying to go? This way.
That way, right?
This way.
And then you put it on your camera.
Yeah. So when you are holding your flash, I like the MagSphere because when it's pointed straight up, it diffuses light beautifully. I'm close to the subject. They're not overexposed. And then when I am farther away, I just point it forward. I don't necessarily point it forward directly a lot. I actually put it at an angle.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
And so that way it's not as harsh and it's not as bright.
Smart. Okay, well, I'm going to take this tidbit and
that's
use it at our weddings.
That's how I like to use this MagSphere instead of the Mag Bounce because then I don't have to change the diffuser too much and I don't have to worry about taking it off when I'm shooting vertically. It's just all...
Okay, well, now I want to buy a second one for my other flash.
It's just all right here. I love it.
Smart. Look at you go. Yeah, those photos that you took of that exit were super cute and like perfectly exposed.
They were bomb. Yeah. They look that way raw too. Like I did.
That's something I love about flash photos is like I feel like I barely have to edit them, especially if I nail like white balance close enough like in camera, which you kind of have to with flash. If I nail like white balance pretty well and then it's like nearly perfectly exposed, like you don't really have to edit that much because like your subject's perfectly exposed.
Yeah.
It's like they're nice and bright and you're not really going to be able to make the background much brighter without too much grain unless you use a second flash. But in post, like, yeah, it's great. Those are some of my favorite photos on a wedding day.
Yeah. One thing you can do with off-camera flash too is you can put it on like another tripod and have it far away and have it go off from behind the subject and it creates a really cool backlight.
Are awesome for that. Yeah.
Yeah, or you can like put them through a window and create like a fake sun for something.
Yeah, I've seen people do that and I've never done it, but it looks really cool.
Yeah. Anyways, that's something I would do if I was to start over for sure would be learning flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I also would have connected with vendors a lot sooner. Not to say that I connected with them really late. But like, you know, when I was 17, 18 starting my photography journey, I would have connected with them sooner, having known what I do now.
Yeah, just think of Grace and I as like your older sisters in photography, or younger. You might be older than us. Sharing our wisdom, things that we would have done differently if we could go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I probably could do a much better job connecting with vendors. I know at first on Instagram, at least, like I mass followed like so many people, like photographers and wedding vendors in the area. And I think that was a good way to like at least have some people know that I existed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you just work with people as you shoot weddings and yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think also having known what I do now is I wouldn't have not done photography more. You know, like I didn't, okay, let me say that a different way. I think also having like knowing what I know now, I would not have kept photography as a hobby for as long as I did. I would have made it my full-time gig a lot sooner.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think I would have done that too, but I would have like made it my hobby because I didn't even do it back in college. Like my friends did, but I didn't. So I wish I would have just like been like, pick up a camera, dummy. Learn something.
Which is fine still too. Like everything happens for a reason. I'm really grateful for like all the experiences I had outside of photography. I'm just saying like, if I were to go back, I would have told myself to like stop wasting your time and just focus on photography.
True. Yeah, if you're new, the best thing you can do is just do it. Just take photos.
Yeah.
Because like the sooner you start, the better you'll be a year from now.
Yeah. The more you do it, the better you'll be from
Yeah, I'm excited to see who we are in like a year and 2 years and 3 years.
I'm excited to see who we are like
after this wedding season. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we will take a what's the word? A debrief now. We'll have like a debrief session. That sounds weird.
Yeah.
I don't like how that sounds.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation at the end of 2023's wedding season.
Yeah.
To reflect on how we thought it went. Other than that, I am really happy I started off with contracts.
Yes.
From the beginning.
I'm happy that I got my business license pretty much right when I started and I had contracts right away.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
One thing too that I didn't realize when I started my photography business was that I could say no to accepting a client. Like again, all with love, if we didn't fit, I could say no. So and not that I ever met anyone that I didn't click with,
right,
or that I didn't get along with or anything, but I just didn't think of that as something that was an available option.
I think it's because we're like at the beginning so desperate for clientele and like some sort of income or validation. Like we're, you know, photographers that we're like, yeah, of course I'll take your photos. Yeah. Whatever. Like barely pay me anything. Sure. But yeah, you can say no. Like you don't have to. And I think it's better to say no to someone who wants to pay you money when it's not a good fit or it seems kind of sketchy, and then just do like free sessions that you plan for other people. Like it's your idea to have a free session. Those are much better, in my opinion, than having someone pay you and then have like a bunch of trouble afterwards. Yeah. Which, I mean, those are kind of related thoughts, I guess. But
yeah, not to say that you're always going to have trouble with people that you don't initially click with, but like I just never thought of that as something that I could do. So that was That's something I would tell myself. It's like, it's okay if you don't vibe with someone.
Yeah, even if you're technically available to, like, just send them well wishes and maybe suggest a different photographer or whatever.
One thing I would tell myself too was that Photoshop is not the only way to edit photos.
I was so surprised when I learned that you at first only edited in Photoshop, and I've only ever edited in Lightroom, like Lightroom to start, and then Photoshop if like extra edits need to be made for like things that I don't want in the photo. Yeah. But I did not did not realize that you did that exclusively in Photoshop.
So again, I was 17. I only knew about Photoshop.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I only knew how to use Photoshop. And I opened Lightroom once. I don't know what I did, but it wasn't something I wanted. And I was like, what the heck? And so I immediately closed out of it, tried to forget anything ever happened in that program, and just tried to move on.
So funny.
And so I would edit photos one at a time in Photoshop. It took forever and a half. And then when I started my business, I was like, okay, everyone's raving about Lightroom and still using it. So I got to figure out how to use it. And now that I know how to use it, I just look back at like past me.
And like, what were you thinking?
Like, what was I thinking? Like, that was crazy.
Okay, well, I take back everything I said before about courses not being worth it if you're new, because apparently young Grace would have benefited greatly from a basics course.
I just needed to take time to watch a YouTube video on it. And once I did, I was like, oh my God.
One thing I will say about courses, like going all the way back to that, is rather than having to watch a bunch of different YouTube videos, you can just watch one course that has a bunch of different videos in it. So like you're kind of paying for the convenience of learning that way. It's like, you know, think of it like a college course.
Yeah, that's a good
photography. So like that aspect is definitely worth it. A misconception that I had starting out, I don't know, maybe I thought it would be easier than, maybe I thought photography would be easier than it actually is.
That's a good point.
Like
I think a lot of people think that.
You know what? Yeah, I remember starting out, I thought that I was like so good, and I was proud of myself, and I should be, and I am proud of like how I started. Like I didn't start off too terrible, like not too shabby, but I think I thought it would just be so easy breezy, beautiful, fill in the blank. But it's not, and it's hard work. Like it's genuinely is hard work. It's fun work, but it's also hard work.
Yeah, because like different situations have different lighting and setting needs.
It's a lot. Like a lot goes around in my brain, especially on a wedding day. And like, I don't know, because you just, it's also a lot of pressure too, I feel, which is good. It's good pressure because you should be focused and want to like, deliver the best quality product to your clients. But yeah, I thought it would just be easy, but it's not. It's a lot of work, and I really have to know what I'm doing, and I do know what I'm doing. But like, whew, it's not just clicking a button, and I never thought it was just clicking a button. But whew,
it's more than you initially thought it was going to be.
Maybe a little bit, which I didn't learn that until like I second shot weddings, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not the most complicated job in the world, but there's a lot that goes into it other than just taking photos and like just being good at taking photos, because you can be good at taking photos and then be terrible at marketing yourself, which I'm not terrible at marketing myself, but I definitely could work on that. But yeah, there's a lot of business side to a photography business than there is actually taking photos. I think that's my biggest misconception. The biggest thing I learned was like, you got to be a business owner first and then you're a photographer.
Another thing I would tell myself or do differently is being more aware about whatever's connected to my hot shoe.
Oh my gosh.
So the hot shoe is...
Mine's bald. Should probably cover it up.
So the hot shoe on your camera is normally where your flash connects. It can also be where a microphone can connect. It's the connection point from another device to your camera. And so that's where a flash connects to. And then the flash and the camera can sync up. When the shutter goes off, the flash will go off. And the reason I'm saying that I would be more aware of what's attached to my hot shoe is because when I got my first flash, my first Godox V1, I broke it that night.
How did you, I mean, like me too, but like, how did you do it?
So I didn't think it would be that fragile.
Yeah, it's pretty fragile.
And so I had my backpack set up in a way where I had my camera in there and the flash also, it's still attached to my camera.
Yes, I've done this.
Yeah. And I pulled out my camera and my flash immediately broke and I cried so bad. Because like the Godox V1 is like what? How much money is that?
$270. $279.
Yeah. So the Godox V1 with tax is almost $300. And again, still a new pro photographer, just getting into it.
That's a lot of money.
I was so upset. And then like the next day I was supposed to be second shooting my first wedding.
Oh.
And so I couldn't use it. I texted the photographer. I was like, I'm so sad. Like I have this other light for video, but it's definitely not the same. It wasn't. It was not the same as a flash going off. But it was as bright. That poor couple.
This poor girl. Which I actually know about photographers who use video lights at receptions like that. And like maybe for a couple minutes it's fine, but the whole time I feel like it would be too much.
It was for their exit. They were running towards me
their exit?
and I had this super giant bright light.
Looking. They're like little flies flying towards the light.
I have pictures of them and they're squinting. And they just look like they're dying because it's so bright. Well, I was also doing video for them, but yeah, it was so bright. I feel really bad for them, and you know that is something that I would definitely do differently.
It's okay. I'm sure they already forgot about that.
Probably.
That's just you remembering. But that's so funny.
But anyways, yeah, that's something that I would change if I was to start over. Is being more aware about what's connected in my hot shoe and trying not to break it.
I've also broken my flash by keeping it attached to my camera on the hot shoe in my backpack. And then my backpack shifted and then it broke. And then you just buy a replacement part and it's fine. But it's still like $20 that I'd rather buy other things.
If you're Trityca though, you buy a whole new flash.
I did that actually. I did. Now I have 3 flashes and I need to buy... Oh no. I do have 3 flashes. And I think I did buy a replacement part. I need to fix my 3rd flash. Well, because 2 camera bodies, so 1 flash per camera body, and then I have 1 for like off-camera flash.
Yeah. But the Godox V1 does have hot shoe replacement pieces, which is great.
Yes, I've bought 2 of them so far.
I am pretty sure I have 4 in my closet right now because I'm just afraid of breaking it now.
You need to keep it in your wedding bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
idea.
In case.
Yeah. Okay, that's another thing too. I've broken the hot shoe twice.
On 1 flash?
Yes. Because it took me time to buy the second one.
That's
Anyways, I've broken it twice. So the first time was pulling it out of my backpack. And the second time I was dancing at someone's reception and someone bumped into me.
You partied too hard.
Yeah. And I just like wasn't careful. So normally I hold my camera and my flash so my arm's protecting it. Like and then that way I can like dance around and take photos of like people dancing. Yeah. I think I was just trying to adjust myself. And so the one time my arm wasn't protecting my flash, someone bumped into me and it shot across the room.
I've dropped my flash like on the floor multiple times. One time I was at a wedding and everyone stopped and looked at me and I was like, I promise I'm professional. I think I was like moving things around or something. I don't know. But my flash was like off the camera body. I should say that. I didn't drop my whole camera. I just dropped my flash. But then it like broke apart and everyone was like, guys, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
One thing that I did too to help protect my flash more is I got a camera cage on one of my cameras.
Ooh, fancy. Well, that was so loud. I'm so sorry.
So I have a camera cage on one of my cameras. You can see it right there. And
they can't see it. I can see it.
Yeah. So it kind of like protects the hot shoe point right here a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
And then it also has different screw-on points along the sides, on the bottom, and even on the top. So, and the camera cage is primarily made for like videographers. Not even just a gimbal, but like so you can make a handle on the side.
That's cool.
But I like it because it protects my camera body a little bit more.
Smart.
And then also can like protects whatever's attached to my hot shoe a little more. It also has a cold shoe point.
What does a cold shoe do?
Okay, so a cold shoe is just another spot for something the size of the hot shoe, but it doesn't
do anything
or sync with your camera.
Duh. Big brain over here.
Yeah. So I have cold shoe. I'm so sorry. So I have a cold shoe little light used for videography, and it doesn't connect to my camera at all. I turn it on and power it off camera.
Cool.
And it doesn't sync up with like the shutter or anything like the flash does. So
fancy.
Yeah, so the camera cage also has a cold shoe point. Anyways, those are some things that we would do differently.
Or things we've learned the last 2 years.
Things we've learned the last...
I'm sure we have more.
What did we talk about? Oh my gosh, we started this by talking about off-season.
Oh no, we got one big tangent. Well, it's because I wanted to talk about contracts. So like something you can do.
We did talk about
okay, a lot. Let's recap everything we've talked about this episode.
So recap. We talked about off-season, what that can be for a wedding photographer.
How to fill your time as a photographer.
Yep. We talked about connecting with other vendors and how that can be important. Styled shoots.
Super fun.
Mini sessions we talked about.
Yeah, that's another great way to fill your time during off season. Yes.
Doing a check-in with your business is a great way to fill your time during the off season. And then we talked about contracts and went on a huge tangent there about setting up yourself contracts and protecting yourself.
Bulk up your business in the off season.
Quickly turned into a little bit of
things that we would do differently if we could go back. That's right. And that's how we got on the topic of presets courses. Flash. Okay, I think we're gonna, now that we recapped, we're gonna end it there.
Yeah.
Feel free to follow us, and please do follow us on Instagram. My handle is @photos by Trityca.
And mine is @lihong.photography. So that's LIHONG.photography. Also, don't forget, you can watch on YouTube and listen on Spotify and Apple Podcast.